I'm going to play a full Battleground Blitz match without typing a single word. No chat, no communication, just raw gameplay. Let's see what happens when I go completely silent. Communication is incredibly important in team-based modes like Battlegrounds. Whether it's sharing strategy, calling for help, or reporting positions, good communication is key to winning. But sometimes, communication can hurt the team. The moment things go south, some players start blaming others, flaming in chat, and dragging down morale. At that point, saying nothing might actually be better. So for the next few days, I'm doing things differently. I'm going to focus entirely on my objective and say absolutely nothing. Let's see how that plays out. But something unexpected happened the moment the game started. I thought it would be fun to play a Blitz match with zero communication. What I didn't expect was that low MMR team do not communicate anyway. In Deep Wind Gorge, it's crucial to decide who's going where before the gates open, but during the whole lobby, not a single word was said. So in situations like this, there's only one thing you can do. Read the room, trust your instincts, and head where you are needed. There wasn't a single message exchanged the entire game, but honestly, my first match went better than expected. We won the initial fight at farm, then I used the downtime to sneak over and ninja cap market, before rotating back to retake farm again. I kept repeating that cycle, because you can't be everywhere at once on these maps, so I focused on only what I could control, and that made all the difference. It turns out at low MMR, most teams are already playing without communication anyway. The second Battleground was no different. The lobby was dead silent, no one said a word. When the gates opened, nobody went to Blacksmith. So I went to BS for 2v1, but I couldn't stop the team from losing. Again, another full game with zero communication. At this point, I actually started wondering, did I pick the wrong video concept? I mean, when you're losing, you would expect someone to say, like, let's try this, or maybe even start blaming someone. You know, classic Battleground behavior. But no, we were losing badly and still radio silence. It was honestly kind of impressive. By the fifth game, I was getting a little anxious, but finally, someone spoke. Our red pal broke the silence. He announced that he was going to sneak behind the enemy lines right at the start and cause some disruption. Now I wasn't so sure that was a great idea. Red pals are one of the strongest specs in Blitz right now, and if we lose that clear pressure in the main teamfight, there is a very real chance that we lose the fight altogether. But then, it looks like the red pal changed his mind. Only the warlock ended up sneaking behind, and the teamfight kicked off as usual. I focused on shutting down the enemy healers before the main clash, but things didn't go as planned. Our healer went down first, and we quickly lost momentum in the fight. At this point, I couldn't even blame the team, because my own DPS wasn't anything special either. Assassination Rogues are monsters in teamfights, but I started to feel like maybe I had the wrong talents, or just the wrong approach altogether. So I decided to visit Kix's channel, a Rogue Pvp channel I've always looked up to. He uploads 3k MMR games from a Rogue's POV, and it's one of the best ways to study positioning, timing, and overall Rogue decision makings. I spent hours watching his videos, and afterward, I took a moment to reset my mindset as a rogue. Time to get back to the basics. Game 6 was on Twin Peaks. For some reason, the enemy two healers were moving separately, and it led to the worst possible outcome. With no healing support, they lost every teamfight, and the healers themselves were easy to shut down. They got greedy, and it cost them the game. Throughout the match, the enemy DPS and healers kept playing separately. But in flag maps like this, you need DPS on defense. Otherwise, your healers just end up being punching bags. Thanks to that, we were able to recover the flag with no problem and close out the game comfortably. The next game was Battle for Gilneas, and things started off with our Demon Hunter defending mines. A panic call for backup came through. As a rogue, it's your job to respond quickly. With tools like Vanish, you can easily disengage from combat and rotate fast when needed. I arrived just in time to see the Demon Hunter vanish and go for the flag cap, so I followed up with a well-timed blind, locking down the enemy and helping secure the base. But after I respawned, I noticed Waterworks was falling. We lost it by a split second. Turns out, one of our warriors had left the flag to chase, leaving the base vulnerable. But of course, since no one saw what really happened, I got blamed in the chat. It was frustrating, but since I wasn't speaking this game, I just kept my focus and played on. Game 10 called for someone to defend Draenei Ruins. Since I couldn't use chat, I simply pinged myself to show I'd take on the role. Soon after, a group of enemies rushed the base, but luckily our team responded in time and we matched their numbers, turning the fight into a win. After the storm passed, and before the enemy had time to respawn, I made a quick decision. Sometimes, it's worth temporarily leaving the base. If you can contribute your cooldown to the mid-fight, and get back before the enemies reaches the base, your team gains a temporary numbers advantage. That's exactly what happened. And with the enemy scattered and outnumbered, we quickly snatched the flag and secured the victory. In this round, I followed the same strategy, but the outcome was very different. Once again, a rogue came to attack. Right after the kill, I rotated mid to support the team fight, then returned to the base before the rogue could come back. I wanted to stall as long as I could, but I guess I gave him too much time. I actually lost the base. That one was on me, completely my mistake. I don't blame my team for being upset. To make things worse, we also lost the center fight, and the enemy held the flag. Now all they had to do was hold and win. But then, our Death Knight stepped up, landing a perfect death grip to force the flag through. From there, it was a race against the clock. I rushed over to Blood Elf Tower and helped secure the base. Despite my earlier mistake, this was a game where my team really had my back, and we pulled through. The next few rounds were all in 2000 MMR or higher, and the first thing I noticed is that people actually started talking. They shared strategies, called out for help, and coordinated fights. It was so satisfying to just listen and play along, following real-time calls from teammates who actually knew what they were doing.
Prepare to fight.
As I started queuing into 2600 MMR games, I began facing gladiator level players, and the matches instantly became way more fun. While our team was fully engaged in a mid-map brawl, our druid slipped into the enemy base, grabbed the flag, and made a break for it. By the time the enemy realized what was happening, they rushed toward our base, but our rogue was already in position, and they couldn't get past the disruption. I rotated back to defend the next flag, but just as I arrived, I got caught in a perfectly placed binding shot from their hunter, and we lost the flag. And toward the end of the game, their Mistweaver monk made an absolutely insane play. He grabbed the flag and hid behind the cliff, in a spot where he could knock players off if they got too close. And to make it worse, it was right in front of the Horde graveyard, making it nearly impossible to contest. Thankfully, I avoided getting knocked off by using Shadow Step, but the monk held the flag all the way until the end. It was just perfect positioning. In Silver Shard Mines, the lava cart is usually considered the main cart, while mid and top carts are called off carts. Most teams send a group of 3 strong small-scale skirmishers to control the off carts. This time, the team was looking for a third player to join the off cart squad. I couldn't type, of course, but I tried my best to ping to show that I was volunteering. Fortunately, one of the players picked up on it, and just like that, we had our trio. It turns out that we didn't have our trio. Only one red pal showed up at the mid cart, and he pushed in way too directly, burning most of his health before the real fight even started. We should have gone around through the top cart route to flank the enemy. The upside was we had a numbers advantage at lava, so at least we were winning the main cart. Now it was time to respawn and defend the top cart at all costs. We couldn't afford to lose it. Thankfully, the second red pal, who was part of the original off-cart squad, stepped up and rotated in, doing his part to help lock it down. As a rogue, your role isn't to brawl in the front lines, avoid fights you can't win, and strike only when the odds are in your favor. Instead of taking a risky 1v1s, the best path to victory is to team up, and quickly delete targets with coordinated pressure. Take this Windwalker for example. He overcommitted to a fight he couldn't win, and ended up wasting a full minute or two accomplishing nothing. Remember to vanish in and out to control the battleground in your favor. In Narrative Basin, this is how most games usually start. You send one healer and one DPS to both blacksmith and lumber mill. Meanwhile, 3 DPS head straight to mines, and the extra DPS who kept farm immediately follows up and joins the mine fight. The first clash at mines is almost always the most intense. It sets the tone for the rest of the match. Once you assault a base, your goal isn't to get kills, it's to stall for time. In Blitz, the flag flips in just 3 seconds, so if you get hit by any CC longer than that, don't hesitate, use your trinket. They sent 3 players to mines, but still failed to cap the base, a huge loss for the enemy team. I love it when people come in with a plan. Right off the bat, the evoker called for a rogue to grab the flag, then drop it for him, so both healers could stay mid for the first mid fight. When it comes to pushing the enemy flag carrier, you usually only get 1 or 2 real chances, so you can't afford to waste them. You have to be patient. Wait until your team is in position before you engage. If the enemy healer is carrying the flag, trying to solo them is almost pointless unless they are sitting on 10 or more stacks of the flag debuff. You're not going to burst them down alone. A little later, we found ourselves in another tense standoff. After respawning at the graveyard, I decided to stay back on defense. In my mind, our offense looked strong enough already. But the sub-rogue on our team clearly had other ideas, and in the end, he was right. We failed to secure a kill on offense, and we lost the ground on defense too. Neither push worked. He was clearly frustrated, and now it was time to follow his lead. Between the rogues, no words are needed, just silent agreement and shadowy execution. My 30th game, a 3000 MMR match in Deep Hall Ravine. Things got off to a rough start. Before the gates even opened, my team was already arguing in the lobby. Probably some leftover salt from the last match, but either way I had a bad feeling going in. This is why I say, chats can be dangerous. Sometimes it's better to just stay quiet and focus on your role. I tried to grab the Berserker buff, but another rogue had already ninja'd it before I got there. In my opinion, as a rogue, the class you should always watch out and harass is the Balance Druid. They've got insane damage potential and they are surprisingly tanky, but the one thing they lack is a reliable escape from rogues. I kept looking for chances to steal the center crystal, but it wasn't easy. Still, we won the main teamfight with ease. And somehow, all the arguing teammates, they started getting along. Well, most of them. Despite the early drama, we managed to control the game without much trouble. And just like that, after 4 days and 30 games, I climbed to 2100 rating and reached rank 35 among Assassination Rogues. But after that, I started to lose interest, mainly because at 3000 MMR games, the queue times got ridiculously long. I had to wait for more than 30 minutes for each game. So to summarize, 30 solo Blitz games, no chat, no communication, 22 wins and 8 losses. Here's the funny part, I actually had a lower win rate at lower MMRs, and I think that says a lot. Yes, some of it is just luck in matchmaking, but at higher MMR, players understand their roles, so even without talking, if I just focus on doing my part, we can still win. But in low MMR games, everyone's a bit lost, and unless someone steps up to lead, the whole team tends to fall apart together. Anyway, the takeaway from today's video is this. Stop talking, just listen to your teammates, and the rating will go up.